Tonight, joy flight tragedy. A pilot and passenger killed in a light plane crash in the scenic rim. New downpours in the far north, unrelenting rain delaying flood recovery. Denmark ready to crown our Mary as Queen and her husband Frederick as King. We are live to Copenhagen. The push to overhaul public transport to and from Brisbane Airport. What will it mean for the air train? Fiery confrontations and billions lost in the tobacco wars, the cost of living impact on Queenslanders. And free swimming lessons for little ones. Is your child eligible?
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Katrina Blowers.
Good evening. 2 men have died in a light plane tragedy in the scenic rim. The pilot and passenger were returning to Boona Airfield when the aircraft plummeted from the sky, crashing outside a golf course only metres from players.
In the scenic rim, a devastating scene. A yellow light plane in pieces. It came crashing down this afternoon in Dugandan, an hour and a half west of the Gold Coast. On board, 2 men, aged 69 and 82.
We knew something had gone down there. I suggested to her that it was a plane to start with. A lot of light plane trips, a lot of older planes coming over. They're usually pretty good, but sad that it's happened.
Police say the plane had taken off from the Boona airfield and was returning, but they don't know why its attempt to land ended in tragedy. No mayday call was made.
That is something the investigators will actually have to pursue in terms of any transmissions that were made from the aircraft.
For the rest of the day, the rural road was blocked. Forensic officers and detectives examined the field, trying to piece together the plane's final moments.
There are many members of the community who may have witnessed this particular crash. And our thoughts are also with those persons.
Recreational Aviation Australia will also assist with the investigation. Other pilots here in Dugandan have told 7 News this pilot was an experienced flyer. They say they've known him for decades and can't believe what unfolded this afternoon. As a small community searches for answers to find out why a weekend joy flight turned fatal. Georgia Costi, 7 News.
Flood-ravaged communities in the far north are facing their second month cut-off as monsoonal rain sparks havoc on roads. Landslides, falling trees and huge downpours are hampering the recovery as 2 new weather systems threaten.
Barren falls, roaring and brown, the result of unrelenting rain. More than a month after the far north's devastating, destructive floods,
we must have had a ton of water because that's bent and collapsed.
New downpours are a painful roadblock to the recovery of residents.
They're extremely anxious about what's to come and what it's going to look like when the rain has done so much damage already.
Bengal Bay was lashed overnight, recording the most rain in the far north. More than 100 millimetres drenched parts of Cairns, while 116 millimetres fell in Whitecliff Point.
Monsoon trough now extends into the Coral Sea. And wrapping around that, it's really enhancing that rainfall.
With 2 tropical lows also threatening to develop over the coming days.
Flash flooding is a definite possibility.
Soldiers and Army Chinook helicopters remain on deployment in the region, carrying critical supplies into communities like Cape Tribulation, isolated for 32 days and counting.
Frustration's starting to creep in now. I've got bills to pay, I've got a business.
Constant landslides and falling trees have blocked almost every road in and out.
There's areas where one lane of the road has ceased to exist. It's washed out or fallen down the mountainside.
The monumental repair job can't happen quick enough for these tourism-starved areas, anxiously awaiting the rest of the wet season, still 2.5 months to go. Garth Burley, 7 News.
Let's bring in Tony Auden now. And Tony, the big question is, where can we expect the heaviest rain?
Well, Katrina, the main concern at the moment is the stretch between about Tully and Townsville, and a severe weather warning is current for that area at the moment. The rain has eased back a bit there at the moment, but it is likely to pick up again into tomorrow morning as winds collide on the southern side of this monsoon trough here. Now, looking ahead, we should have a low spinning around in the Coral Sea through the later parts of this week. No immediate concern that it will become a tropical cyclone, but we will need to keep an eye on it, especially into the early parts of next week. Katrina, I'll be back soon with the forecast.
Thanks, Tony. In just a few hours, the woman once known as Mary Donaldson from Tasmania will become the Queen of Denmark. Huge crowds are expected to gather in Copenhagen to watch the Crown Princess and her husband Prince Frederik take the throne.
At Amalienborg Palace, the trappings of royalty, the changing of the guard. This the last of the reign of Margrethe II. It's a little like Buckingham Palace, but different.
You can see there's no fences, there's no long guards and high fences, so that the royal family is very close physically, but also to the people as well.
The Prime Minister, representing the people, will proclaim Frederik as king from the balcony of the country's parliament. Inside, he and Mary won't ever actually sit on the thrones, and there'll be no elaborate coronation like this. The last held here in 1657.
We have a society here where a lot of people emphasize very much that everybody should be equal.
Although some are little more equal than others as Copenhagen prepares to celebrate. Margrethe won't be here to see her son proclaimed as king once she abdicates. Her job is done, quickly returning to Amalienborg, giving Frederik and Mary a clear run. And Copenhagen's Australian community will be watching.
When there's a very special occasion, that the local bakers will produce a special product.
Paulette Christofferson fell for a Dane and moved here, just like Mary.
And I think she represents what Australians can be and where we come from, and she really does that so well.
Her life about to change forever. In the coming hours, Queen Margrethe will leave the palace for the final time as monarch in a royal carriage, coming here to the Parliament to sign the abdication papers. She will leave in a car, allowing the new King Frederik X and Queen Mary to travel through the streets of Copenhagen in that same royal carriage for the first time as sovereign and consort. The crowds are beginning to build here in the Danish capital. Tens of thousands of people expected. They're putting on extra trains, extra police as well. It'll be a day when an Australian will become Queen. Quite a ride for the Tasmanian. Katrina.
It certainly has been. Hugh Whitfield there. And it's not just Copenhagen where Danes are counting down. Celebrations are underway in Brisbane too. The Danish club put on a party today to mark the occasion with traditional food and Tasmanian champagne to honour the new Queen.
Queen Mary has been so quick at adapting the Danish traditions, the Danish language, which can be really hard. We feel like she's one of ours, but we're happy to share her with Australia as well.
And Sunrise will have special coverage of Frederik and Mary's coronation tomorrow morning, crossing live to Copenhagen for all the festivities. Don't miss that on Sunrise from 5 a.m. The federal government is stepping in over concerns Brisbane Airport will only have one form of public transport for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. This extraordinary move comes after negotiations to end AirTrain's contract early failed.
A public transport monopoly threatening to derail the 2032 Games.
We can't keep building car parks and roads forever. Brisbane Airport needs to be serviced by fast, reliable and affordable public transport.
Federal Transport Minister Catherine King has expressed concern about the airport's public transport options. AirTrain is the exclusive provider for the current 20 million visitors a year and 20,000 airport staff.
At the moment, 94% of all workers drive to the airport.
Price and frequency, common gripes among passengers.
A couple of times I've arrived after 10 p.m. when it stops operating.
It's costing like $30 a trip.
The 35-year contract runs until 2036, well after the predicted Games population boom and the airport's major workforce increase.
The current deal is antiquated, anti-competitive, and it should end.
This contract was signed by an LNP government And now, in hindsight, it seems like it wasn't the best possible outcome.
7 News understands there's been lengthy discussions between TMR and AirTrain to bring their contract to an end early. But when a deal considered value for money for taxpayers couldn't be reached, I'm told negotiations broke down. The Treasurer encouraging both federal and local government to open their wallets to help broker a resolution.
There's a possibility, of course, of buses, but we need to deal with the legal framework. And the way we have to do that may be through funding.
Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner pushing for the Metro to be considered a future option. AirTrain didn't respond to our inquiries. Sally Geit, 7 News.
A young girl is recovering in hospital after being stung by a jellyfish on Gari. She was camping with family when she was stung and had an allergic reaction. Paramedics couldn't reach her because of the tide, so the RACQ rescue chopper was called in. She was taken to Hervey Bay Hospital in a serious condition. A multi-million-dollar cash injection will help the Australian Border Force crack down on the smuggling and sale of illegal cigarettes and tobacco products. It's a major step up in the fight against the black market trade, which has led to a violent turf war.
Explosions puncture the nighttime quiet as a tobacco shop goes up in flames, the latest in a string of suspected arson attacks in Melbourne's tobacco wars, rival underworld gangs battling for control of the lucrative black market.
Illegal cigarettes and illegal tobacco are an ATM for the illegal activities of organised crime.
Last financial year alone, Border Force seized 1.7 billion illegal cigarettes and 867 tonnes of loose leaf tobacco.
It's only a matter of time before an innocent person gets seriously injured or killed in this war.
To prevent that, the federal government's investing $188.5 million to stamp out the illicit trade, boosting Border Force resources to disrupt smuggling operations and trialling new detection equipment. But retailers say successive governments are partly to blame for the problem.
With the constant excise increases over the last 10 to 12 years, that has seen an explosion in the illegal tobacco market,
forcing smokers to look for cheaper alternatives, robbing the Commonwealth of $3 billion a year in lost tax revenue, preventing the government from investing in a whole range of measures. Among them, perhaps more help for those Australians buckling under soaring energy, housing and grocery bills. As a new poll shows, 80% of voters aren't happy with Labor's handling of the cost of living crisis, with more than 2/3 not expecting any assistance in the next 6 months.
The Prime Minister's been obsessed on every issue but the important ones.
The government insists the most important, tackling inflation, is its highest priority. Rob Scott, 7 News.
The dangers posed by artificial intelligence will be addressed by new federal laws. Industry Minister Ed Husic has confirmed a new advisory body will work with government, industry and academic experts to provide the groundwork for new legislation.
It's very important to get this right. As most countries agree now, this is a potential, it sounds extreme, but I believe it's true, a potential risk to the existence of mankind.
The body will initially concentrate on high-risk settings such as law enforcement and healthcare. It's now 100 days since Hamas terrorists raided Israel in the October 7 attacks, triggering the war in Gaza. It comes as the US president delivered a direct message to Iran over their backing of Houthi rebels following a second US strike.
The drums of war deep in the Yemen desert. Allahu Akbar! Houthi fighters trample the American flag, vowing retaliation for this. A second round of US Tomahawks striking Houthi targets before dawn.
As they are probably trying to recalibrate and trying to think through next steps, we were able to hit approximately 16 locations.
Enough firepower to take out a quarter of the rebels' attack capability, according to senior US officials. The Iran-backed militia has threatened more chaos in the Red Sea unless Israel pulls out of Gaza.
This is a war against the axis of evil led by Iran and its three affiliates, the three H's I call them, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis.
The US president saying he's delivered a private message to Iran. As the West combines forces to contain a regional conflict, Israel's still determined to bring down Hamas and bring home more than 100 hostages held captive for 100 days. reminding the world of their plight with this, a replica Hamas tunnel built in Tel Aviv.
I can't speak, it was very difficult to... I can't explain the pain that we have here in Israel.
Ceasefire now! As pro-Palestinian protests are held across the globe from London to the gates of the White House. Israel marking 100 days of war as the death toll grows in Gaza. In Tel Aviv, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
7 sailors have been rescued off the Bundaberg coast overnight after they activated a distress beacon. The 7-metre vessel capsized in rough seas, but luckily it didn't sink, allowing the men to cling to it until help arrived. They were eventually picked up by volunteer marine rescue. All sailors are thankfully uninjured. The opposition is piling pressure on the state government to call a by-election in Inala. The electorate, which has long been one of the safest Labor seats in the state, was vacated by former Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk last month.
I want every Queenslander to have the opportunity to vote for change. And I'm under no illusions about the weight of history. I get that. But that doesn't mean that we're going to run away from a fight.
These things happen from time to time when members of Parliament resign. The government will continue to support that community.
Both Labor and the LNP are yet to announce their candidates for the position. Tens of thousands of spectators filled Melbourne Park today for the first ever Sunday start of the Australian Open. Tonight would usually be the eve of the Open, but the early start seems to have been a big success.
They've been here before, but it's been a while. 21 years since Andre Agassi's last Australian Open, 50 years since Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley's first.
When I heard that, I thought, oh, geez, that makes me feel old.
From then to now, there's plenty of change at the Australian Open. This year it starts a day early.
I can't believe how busy it is for a Sunday. I mean, it's jam-packed.
Ticket sales today have been fairly significant, a lot more than we expected.
The extra day allows breathing room in the schedule.
It does take the edge off the late finishes. Doesn't guarantee you won't have them, but it takes the edge off.
A new bar at Court 6 was inspected early.
Yeah, not ready yet, but
Keep yourselves nice, courtside.
I think it could be a challenge playing on here later in the day.
The mocktails I've got here and it's delicious.
Australian Open, eyes shut for some. Also open, the wallet.
For tickets, I would have spent almost $1,000 because I'm coming 3 days.
So about $110 for tickets. We've got about $30 of stuff in the bag. We'll spend another probably, $70 to $100 on the snacks
minimum,
and the refreshments.
200 tickets roughly. Probably looking at spending around $200 on food, merchandise.
Tickets probably about $350, I think. Drinks. It's an endless tab, let's say.
This year, an expected record 1 million visitors to the Open.
We haven't seen international visitation come back since COVID, but events like this really put us on the international map.
Being out here is incredible to witness firsthand. Seeing how this has grown and yet the seats are full.
Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Brisbane businesses are desperate to bring the bustle back to the city. So what's behind the slump in trade? Those details just ahead. Iron men and women leap into action, saving dozens of swimmers. See the dramatic rescue. Help is on the way for southeast tourism operators battered by storms. And the simple financial test helping families unlock extra cash.
When it happens,
When it matters.
you will know.
A dangerous escalation in the war in the Middle East.
Delivering a crushing message.
At 6 p.m. every night,
We're right here to make sense of it all.
Many don't feel comfortable coming forward.
Wanted on weapons offences.
You'll always know the news with 7 News.
we have some breaking news now. A major search is underway in the Everton Park area tonight for a missing boy. 10-year-old Zane has autism and was last seen leaving the Everton Park Hotel at 2:30 this afternoon wearing a green T-shirt. The family is on holidays from Canberra and say he's unfamiliar with the area. The police chopper has been circling above while officers, family and friends search on the ground. Australia's elite Ironmen and women put their training into practice this afternoon, rescuing dozens of people swept out to sea in a flash rip in Sydney. All 25 tourists were saved, with 4 suffering minor injuries. The dramatic rescue happened less than 24 hours after another incident at a nearby beach when 4 swimmers struggled in strong currents. Businesses in Brisbane CBD say they're seeing a slump in trade because city staff are choosing to work from home. They want governments to find a way to boost visitation as they experience a post-Christmas shopping drop.
Weekend foot traffic in the CBD, shoppers and diners pack Queen Street Mall. But it's not the case during the working week.
It died down a bit with people going back to work.
Operators claim work from home arrangements are behind the slip in trade. It's the same story for the city's nightlife. Staff at Brew Cafe and Wine Bar say they're seeing a dip in business too.
We do have our busy rushes, but they're a bit few and far between now.
The dynamics have changed significantly, and that's impacted retailers and small businesses.
Shoppers say more needs to be done to bring back the bustle of years past.
The Maya closing down. We're a major city and we're going to have the Olympics, but we don't have a Maya. That's my favourite shopping.
Despite concerns from businesses that work from home is slowing down trade, Brisbane is bouncing back. The Property Council says office vacancies have dropped 1.3% in the last year.
Whilst we think that CBDs are not dead, they've got to be reinvented. It's an issue that's a global issue, but particularly we're seeing that in Australia around the country.
The Retail Association wants local and state governments to find new ways to attract people from the suburbs to the city.
Make sure that the experience in the CBD is one that's unique and that you can't get anywhere else, that you can't get in a shopping centre. And that's really important, particularly to the lead up to the Olympics.
A key step in making the River City ready for the world stage. Lawrence Jeffcoat, 7 News.
The state's tourism minister has hinted visitor incentives will be extended to the battered Gold Coast region. The package to help bring tourists back will be announced tomorrow and could include major discounts on airfares and accommodation.
I look forward to joining the Premier tomorrow to ensure that we are giving the assistance where we need. Tourism is a vital part of our economy.
A $29 million assistance program was provided to help get the far north back on its feet following Cyclone Jasper last month. A swim safety boost for Queensland kids coming up who's eligible for free lessons. Also, see the moment a ute slams into a truck on a busy southeast highway and the unexpected benefits of dark chocolate. Slap on those L plates and hit the road.
Life is great in the Sunshine State.
When getting your licence was less of a test. Flashback coming up soon. Dashcam has captured the moment a ute smashed into the back of a truck on the M1 at Beenleigh South. The driver of the heavy vehicle slammed on the brakes after another car swerved in front. Witnesses say the ute driver was checking to merge into another lane. He was shaken but okay and was taken to hospital as a precaution. Hundreds of additional Queensland children are set to learn an essential skill, with more swimming lessons to be made free for families doing it tough. The expanded Swim Start program will ease pressure on household budgets, but some think more can be done.
A cash splash to keep Queensland kids safe.
Swimming's so important to the Aussie way of life, and cost of living shouldn't get in the way.
The state government more than doubling its investment for the Swim Start program, a $5 million funding boost ensuring more vulnerable children learn a life-saving skill.
We are seeing a huge uptake of families that previously could not access the funding or the personal finances to bring their children to swimming lessons.
Vouchers of up to $150 are on offer for children 4 and under. 2 of Beth Constable's kids have benefited, including 3-year-old Kenai.
I was always adamant, I've always been adamant, they need to learn to swim. He's just going on 3 and he swims completely independently by himself now, and it's amazing to watch him.
Almost 5,000 vouchers have been issued over the past 2 months. Currently, parents and guardians must have a healthcare or concession card to be eligible.
If you go and look at the current number of people signed up for this program,
it barely scratches the surface of the previous funding block that was announced.
But at the moment, we are targeting the most needy in our community. So we'll have a look, we'll monitor that.
To help develop a necessary skill, no matter the cost. Liam Bland, 7 News.
An Arctic blast is sweeping across parts of the United States, bringing freezing temperatures to some areas, plummeting to minus 30 degrees. The deadly weather has prompted travel bans, with thousands of flights cancelled and football games postponed.
A bone-chilling blizzard blanketing Iowa, 1/2 metre of snow falling in Des Moines in just 5 days as back-to-back storms smashed the United States. An historic freeze threatens the Republicans' first caucus on Monday, with warnings for life-threatening wind chills.
It's going to be negative 15, but I'm going to be out there.
Buying some salt for my driveway so it doesn't get too icy.
Thousands of flights have been cancelled across the country, travel bans enforced in Western New York. This is Buffalo, where the NFL playoff match between the Bills and Steelers had to be scrapped.
The NFL has agreed with our assessment that we need to postpone tomorrow's playoff game.
Tonight's playoff between the Chiefs and Dolphins will be the coldest in history, well below zero.
Greatness! Yeah! How about you want it?
Look at the ice circles forming.
More than 240 temperature records are set to tumble over the next few days. Up to 3 people have been killed in the storms.
You're talking over 80 million people under some type of wind chill alert.
Coast to coast, almost every state is being hit by wild weather. A huge storm surge inundating Maine. Coastal flooding in Portland saw water levels rise more than 4 metres. This driver makes a daring dash in Massachusetts but doesn't get far. In the United States, Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.
Here's the story we all need. New research suggests eating dark chocolate could help lower your blood pressure. Scientists in China have been exploring the relationship between dark chocolate intake and cardiovascular disease. They believe natural compounds found in the chocolate can prevent clots and improve blood flow, contributing to a person's overall heart health. Queenslanders are missing out on extra cash flow because they haven't completed a simple financial test. A special cost of living report is next. Also, a woman winched to safety after plunging from a waterfall. Preparations underway for one of America's greatest shows. And tonight in Flashback, how getting a driver's licence in Queensland has changed. A major manhunt is continuing tonight for a gunman believed to be armed and dangerous. The 30-year-old was last seen in the Castledine and Aspley area. He's also believed to frequent Logan and the Bayside. Police have released a video of the black motorbike he's believed to be travelling on. Anyone who sees him is urged to call 000 immediately. There was a delicate rescue operation southwest of Sydney today when a woman in her 30s fell from a waterfall. Multiple crews were called to mermaid pools in an area of dense bushland. Paramedics treated the patient for cuts and bruises before she was winched out by helicopter. A startling number of Queenslanders are being blacklisted from bank loans and credit cards, and they don't even know it. As more people turn to credit to survive the rising cost of living, financial experts say understanding what you can borrow is more important than ever.
It can mean the difference between getting a loan or not.
A credit score is a number between 0 and 1,000, and it lets the banks know how trustworthy or reliable you are as a borrower.
And the higher the number, the better.
Roughly about 660 or thereabouts. Above that is a good score. Above 850 is supposed to be excellent, of which many people don't pass.
Research by Finder shows around 40% of Australians have a score under that benchmark.
And that's 40% that could end up having to pay higher interest rates or be rejected when it comes to looking to obtain further finance in the future.
71%, or more than 14 million Australians, don't even know their credit score. That includes 21% who don't know what it is or how to check it, and 9% who are too scared to check.
If you want a home loan, a personal loan, a car loan, then banks will assess you based on that credit score.
The good news is you can improve your score by consolidating any debts and reducing any credit limits you're not using.
It can take a couple of years for the credit score to be bumped up if you're going to improve it. So the sooner you can get on it, the better.
You can check your credit score online for free. Melina Saris, 7 News.
Move over Super Bowl. A trailer has dropped for one of the most highly anticipated American football events of the year. Final preparations are underway for Puppy Bowl, with this year set to have more adorable competitors than ever before. The Fluffy Festival will see 130 puppies face off, with Team Rough set to go up against Team Fluff in a ferocious game of football. The annual event raises money for US animal shelters. Sumo superstars bound for our shores meet the wrestling royalty ready to convert Aussies to their sporting religion, and they certainly are larger than life. That story is just ahead on 7 News. Sport time now. Welcome back, Webby. And no challenge is too large for our new test opener.
Yes, Katrina, thank you. Steve Smith, in fact. Hello, everyone. Just ahead, Australia's batting champ reveals why he wants to open and what if it all goes wrong. Plus, Djokovic's title defence is underway, but the Joker's biggest threat kicks off his campaign in style.
Australia is set to welcome our new Queen. Join Sunrise for the latest at the Royal Coronation.
We're live from Copenhagen for all the festivities.
Your front row seat to history is here. Australia's Queen Mary, the Sunrise special event, Monday morning on 7 and 7.
There was one awkward question to ask Steve Smith. What if this move to opener goes horribly wrong? Australia's batting champion hasn't even contemplated it before a fresh start he needed to reinvigorate his great career on Wednesday.
A Test cricket mismatch suddenly has intense interest due to one move. Steve Smith, the modern Bradman, from number 4 to opener.
I don't like waiting to bat, like I never really have, and I actually don't like watching cricket that much, believe it or not. I prefer to be out there batting, so gets a bit boring sitting there.
Waiting for his mate Marnus and the negative tactics cooked up to stop Smith had become a drag. He started dropping hints to selectors in the last Ashes series. Said
after Davey's done, I'm actually keen to get up there, and I don't think they sort of took me seriously until I got to Sydney, and I was like, no, I'm actually being genuine here.
The West Indies did remove him for a duck in Adelaide last summer and sense opportunity.
It's nice that it's not two left-handers, we have a right and a left now, so maybe Zari could get Steve Smith pretty early, or even Kemar Roach, you never know.
It could get awkward if Smith doesn't fire and Cameron Green takes ownership at number 4.
No, I don't like thinking that way, so I don't want to think negative thoughts at all, so yeah, you can have your opinion on that.
The Windies are the big worry. Sean Tate's passing on local knowledge, Brian Lara's with them too, inspired and pressured by memories of Calypso Kings, each time arriving with their hope and ours that this can be the start of their revival.
We talk about it every day, about getting back to those days, but it's a new era now, and we're just looking forward to making our own brand and playing that brand of cricket.
Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
The Heat have dismissed concerns over their depth after losing players to international duties ahead of the finals. Despite last night's loss, it's a case of no Billings, Munro, Khawaja, Labuschagne or Renshaw, no worries.
I feel like we've had a good depth. We've had good players sitting on the bench throughout the course of the summer. Look, we got bogged down there. There's no two ways about it. We didn't rotate well enough through that.
Brisbane will face the second place team in Friday's qualifier against either the Scorchers or Sixers, with games still to play. In Canberra, the Thunder won the bat flip and have gone into bat in the hope of breaking their 4-game losing streak. They may be bottom of the table, but they're off to a flying start.
Straight. We know how powerful he is. Straight. Beautiful swing of the bat.
A Thunder victory tonight will impact its strikers' chance at finals. Catch the match straight after the news. Chasing his 11th Australian Open crown, Novak Djokovic has begun his title defence, taking on Croatian Dino Prismic. As far as the Aussies went on day one, home hill wildcard Adam Walton bowed out, while young Sunshine Coast qualifier Dane Sweeney almost got through.
A former king of Melbourne Park coming across his queen. Between them, Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf share 8 Oz Open titles, dwarfed by Novak Djokovic's 11. Alex de Minaur's campaign to begin in 24 hours. Other young Aussies taking centre stage on day one. Dane Sweeney earning his opportunity the hard way through qualifying. A Leighton Hewitt clone with a backhand to match.
Oh, yes.
And determination to win.
Hello, how you going?
A Hewitt-esque comeback on the cards from 2 sets to 1 down.
That's why. OK, put the kettle on.
Running out of steam in the 5th, can still hold his head high, pushing 22nd seed Francesco Cerundolo to the brink. Wildcard Adam Walton had his opponent on the run.
I wish I had that flexibility.
Outclassed in straight sets, Matteo Arnaldi booking a potential date with de Minaur. Straight sets, but not straightforward for 4th seed Yannick Sinner.
Oh, stop it! How did he win that point?
Losing the point, but winning the match. Delighting the Carrot Boys, childhood friends who follow the red-headed Italian on tour. Coached by Darren Cahill, a win of sorts for Australia today. Russian Pavel Kotov is lucky he wasn't disqualified for narrowly missing a ball girl after this outburst on the outside courts. Novak Djokovic currently on Rod Laver Arena, launching his bid for a record-extending 11th Oz Open crown against a Croatian qualifier. Brett Thomas, 7 News.
Graham Arnold's under no illusions. His Socceroos need significant improvement if they're any chance of winning the Asian Cup. Frustrated by a stonewalling world number 102 India in last night's group stage opener. With Tim Cahill present, the Aussies laboured to a 2-0 win in Qatar.
Cross on Gurpreet, only touched it into the path of Jackson Irvine, and that mistake allows Australia to open the scoring.
We're here to win the Asian Cup, and you have to reach for the stars, and you have to have high expectations and put those expectations on the boys.
The Socceroos face Syria next on Thursday night. Matilda skipper Sam Kerr posted a positive message from hospital as her recovery from ACL surgery begins. In Aussie cycling, there's a feared, revered proving ground called Wollonga Hill. The men's tour down under centre point. It hadn't been included on the women's tour till today. 23-year-old Aussie Sarah Giganti produced an astonishing solo effort to win by 20 seconds and put the world on notice.
Super Sarah is the Queen of Wollonga and the winner of the Santos Tour Down Under.
I'm so grateful to everyone that kept believing in me, even when I didn't. Yeah, it's just so special. Yeah.
It's a huge result after injury, illness, and unbelievably now, the loss of faith from her previous team. For the first time in 4 years, the Bullets have posted 4 straight victories, with Nathan Sobey again dominating from the perimeter. The Bullets delighted home fans with a superb offensive display against the Illawarra Hawks.
Here, McDaniel flushes the 2. Oh, Brisbane are cooking at the moment. They've opened up an 11-point lead.
The final margin, 7 points, as Brisbane closes in on just their second finals appearance since readmittance in 2016. Katrina, that's our Sunday sport.
Good to have you back.
It's
Thanks,
good to
Webby.
be back.
An international sumo competition is heading to Australia for the first time in years. Stars of the sport will give audiences a unique insight into ancient Japanese traditions.
Festival Hall, famously shaken up by rock royalty. And now slammed by sumo wrestling royalty.
Hi everyone, see you soon in Australia.
Hiroki Sumi, 260 kilograms, 2-time Japanese divisional champ. Next Friday's headline act, determined to convert us to his religion.
It's really enjoyable for me to show sumo around the world, showing traditional Japanese culture.
Also coming, Rami Elgazar, 240 kilograms, Egyptian star of the American sumo circuit. You win by pushing your opponent to the ground or out of the ring.
If you hear the impact, the collision, it's like 2 cars hitting each other. You can hear the sound, you can feel the intensity.
It's a way of life, it's something to be celebrated.
And you appreciate the art behind it.
The history in this sport
you get really excited day after day when you know more about sumo.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Well, these days you need at least 100 hours of practice, but it used to be much easier what it took to get your driver's licence over the decades.
And what will the weather do over the next few days? I'll have the forecast coming up next.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.
For anyone turning 16 in 2024, it's time to start thinking about getting a learner's permit and hitting the road. First-time drivers and their parents now have to jump through a lot of hoops, but it wasn't always such a test.
We're ready to start the engine, so we first make sure that the gear lever is in neutral and the handbrake is on.
A driver's licence, a rite of passage. The first issued in Brisbane in 1910, when you were far more likely to cross paths with a horse and buggy than a car, but the state's first recorded fatal crash changed all that. From 1914, if you passed a basic police test, you were good to go.
Life is great in the Sunshine State.
It pretty much remained that way for decades, until 1970 and the provisional licence, the P-plate. A year to prove yourself worthy of a full licence. But then, as now, young drivers were seriously overrepresented in the crash statistics. It was suggested some young drivers be given psych tests, but it was impractical.
I don't think necessarily psychiatrists would be any better at this, say, than a competent constable working in the traffic department.
By the 80s, learners would need a mandatory 6 lessons with a qualified instructor. It led to years of criticism, much from instructors that it was too easy to get your licence.
The 10 kilometres over the speed limit in itself will not fail the driving test.
By 2003, the RACQ was calling on the government to require learners to spend at least 50 hours behind the wheel.
At night, in the wet, on high-speed roads in the country.
In 2007, sweeping changes, still in effect today, learners' permits at 16 and 1 year and 100 hours logged before sitting your Ps.
They're not there to be popular, they're there to be effective.
A big commitment for learners and their parents, and one being reviewed by the state government. But before you steel your nerve and put your son or daughter in the driver's seat, you may want to call your insurance company. Some, like the RACQ, AAMI, Bingle and Suncorp, automatically cover your child, while others, such as Budget Direct, require you to list your learner on your policy. If there's one saving grace, it's that today only about a third of learners go for a manual licence.
Confidence will come with experience. Experience will also show how much other people's safety depends upon the way we learn and apply the principles of good driving practices.
Weather now, and Tony, a bit more sunshine than expected this weekend.
Yes, Katrina, it's been a beautiful weekend across the southeast. Plenty of blue sky on offer after Friday's rain cleared away pretty rapidly. Still a couple of very isolated showers around this afternoon, mostly for areas south of Ipswich and east of Wivenhoe Dam. It's been a hot one, a few spots pushing up to 33 degrees inland, while the Gold Coast and Redlands Coast reach tops of 31 degrees. Across Queensland today, storms out over the Maranoa and Warrego. Recent warnings have now been cancelled, and plenty of rain in the tropics with this monsoon trough. Looking ahead, that monsoon will hang around for a while, probably a couple of weeks at least. Tomorrow, more rain in the tropics, and we should see a few more showers starting to build along the southern parts of the Queensland coast. Now, long term, we will need to keep an eye out for a potential low out in the Coral Sea. Just something to watch out for now. Checking the capital city forecast, Sydney looking relatively cool, 24 degrees, a few drops of rain on the way. Canberra just 20 degrees. Adelaide and Perth pushing up into the mid to high 30s though. For northern Queensland, a severe weather warning is current between Tully and Townsville, with heavy rain set to pick up again from tomorrow morning. Heavy showers on the forecast for Cairns and Townsville, lighter in Mackay. Over southern districts, showers picking up along the coast and ranges yet again, especially from late morning onwards. Bundaberg and Hervey Bay around the 30-degree mark. In the southeast, showers also starting to develop near the coast in the morning, then they should spread inland around lunchtime with the odd rumble of thunder. Then you could get a few drops of rain pretty much anywhere through to the end of the day. A touch cooler as the cloud thickens up again. Tops around 29 degrees for the Bayside, Oxley and Springfield, tracking for 30 degrees. Bodie's a breezy day on Moreton Bay, southeast winds at 15 to 20 knots. In Brisbane, a few sunny breaks early, then that cloud thickens and brings a few of those passing showers from late morning onwards. 23 overnight, up to a top of 30 degrees. And looking ahead, it's a bit hard to split the difference day on day here, but we are expecting more of those showers right through the course of the next week. A cool at 28 degrees on Tuesday. In Ipswich, it should be wettest in the afternoons, the odd rumble of thunder in there too, most likely into Thursday, possibly Friday. Gold Coast's muggy nights continue with maximums hovering around the 29 degree mark from Wednesday onwards. And on the Sunshine Coast, 29s and 30s from Wednesday, and you can't rule out a passing shower or two each day right through the next week. Katrina, this unexpected wet summer keeps on rolling on.
It keeps us guessing. Thanks, Tony. That is all from us this Sunday. Thank you for your company. Updates throughout the evening. But for now, from all the team, have a great night.